was standing in a balti of hot water for the close-up. And I'm saying the lines like this. Uske upar se helicopter hai upar, helicopter shot le rahe hain on top of the young frau. Like this. Meanwhile, my co-actor is trying to keep me warm. And there's a hot water ki balti under my sari so that it's hidden from the helicopter. Not glamorous, guys. Not glamorous. You can only control what you can control. So don't spend your time wasting something you can't control. Ego is the end of everything. Hard work, keeping your head down, humility, and persistence. That's all you need to be successful.
Please put your hands together for Bhumi Pednekar. Bhumi, can we have you on stage? There she is. And for the chairperson of the MAMI Mumbai Film Festival, Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
Today is about the art of acting. What we as actors do, how we choose parts, how we break down characters, how we decide how to say lines when you have dialogues, and just the conversation around the craft of acting. So from two people who've had experience, mine is 23 years, Bhumi's slightly younger. Just slightly. I'm 2 decades here, my God. But I thought it would be really interesting for us as two generations of actors to be able to talk about our experiences for those of you who are interested in the art of acting. So should we do it? Yeah? Let's do it.
Okay, so before we start, good afternoon, everyone. VC, just like everybody in this room, I'm your fan. And I have to acknowledge it because I don't think I've left a single moment to tell you how much I love you. And there are various reasons. It's just your journey, your choices, the woman that you are. You know, you've paved the path for so many of us. You know, I remember the first time I saw you, and I'm just going to take a couple of moments over here. Please tell
everyone the story because it's really cute.
It's this anecdote that I have to share. So your brother Siddharth and I went to school together and we had our yearly annual day, and I was told that Miss Priyanka Chopra is going to be our chief guest. That's it.
Wait, let's go back a little bit. What year is this? We're actors, so let's lay the land of the scene.
I think this was 2009?
Yeah, 8, 9?
8 or 9? 2008 or 9?
So imagine 2008 or 9. Where I am, what movies would have been coming out of mine? Maybe
Fashion. That's right. Fashion. Yeah.
I'm glad you remember. मुझे इतना time हो गया याद ही नहीं रहते. Yes, some gems of mine, absolute gems. You must be a fan. But Bhumi and my brother were studying in the school called RIMS, and it was their annual day. And I'll set the scene, and then Bhumi, you can talk. I got brought into an auditorium like this.
Yeah.
And there was a stage and the students were performing and we were watching people perform.
And then I come onto stage and I've only looked at her for like maybe a 10-minute performance. Because, you know, this woman that I adore.
I had a personal performance.
I was like, you know, because somehow I was like, oh my God, you think she's looking at me? And she was looking at me, and that's it. She gave me such a vivid memory for a lifetime. And the beauty of this is that I met her many years later. I had debuted and we met at a party. It was Rohini's party where we met, and you remembered. I was like, how do you remember this? Because I was like this gawky teenager who'd just seen her idol, and I was going crazy, and I was like, oh my God, I just want to perform for her. Maybe she sees something in me, and she's like, you know, why don't you come on as an AD on some film set of mine? That was my aspiration. But the beauty of it is you remembered, and you gave me another reason to love you. You are just brilliant. And that's why when Anupama and the team at MAMI told me, let's do this, I was like, hell yeah. You know, because even for me, with my journey, I feel like with your everyday choices. It could be your films, just the way you conduct yourself, the things that you stand for. There's so much to be inspired by.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So my first...
I don't think it takes a lot to remember special people. You made an impression, clearly. But let's talk about choices, because that's what I admire about you as well. So for anybody, you know, who wants to join movies, it's all about choices, right? Like the choices of who you align yourself with, the movies you make, the characters you pick, the kind of path you want to take. At least for me, it was as it came, and you know, you just took choices, and I had no roadmap. I kind of was just figuring it out on my own. So tell me, for you, because you knew you wanted to be an actor.
Right.
You knew from when you were very young that ये मुंबई नगरी मेरी है, मुझे यहाँ नाम बनाना है. मेरे लिए ये नहीं था. So tell me, for you, and then I'll talk about my journey as someone for who I was kind of dropped into this vocation as an actor, and I'm a hustler. आप मुझे कुछ भी दे दो करने के लिए मैं अच्छे से करूँगी, नहीं तो नहीं करूँगी. That's my thing. Either I do it at 100% or I don't want to attach my name to it. And I've been like that since I was a kid. So I created my career out of hustle, but you are such a inspiration to me too, because you know, your journey has been so wonderful, Bhumi, in terms of the choices you've made, the characters that you've picked, and just the dignity with you support your characters. So talk to me a little bit about wanting to be in the movies, just like I'm sure a lot of you are, and how did you make your first entrance?
Honestly, all I ever wanted to do was be an actor. I did not look like any conventional girls, so I was never really given the support or the confidence.
Break it down. Tell me why. Let's talk about it. We're here in a safe space to talk about it.
Because, you know, even at school, when you're growing up, all the popular girls look a certain way. And it's okay. You know, this is like societal conditioning. So I'm not trying to like, you know, group them to be a certain type. But, you know, the society looks at certain type of women that, oh, she's hot, she's pretty because she's dainty or she's skinny. And, you know, she's got like really, she's fair-skinned or she has beautiful hair. I didn't have any of that.
I mean, I was always called dusky beauty. I don't even know what dusky means. Isn't that dusk? Sunset?
And, but in my head, and a lot of it comes from the family that I was born into, I would be like completely crushed in school, underconfident, but I would go back home and they would make me feel like isse zyada khoobsurat ladki to koi hai nahi. So I was somewhere like, you know, confused between being very underconfident and being overconfident. And I feel that's what kind of gave me the courage to keep going. As you said, you're a hustler. I feel like I hustled my way in too, because I didn't really have a way in to break it.
That's a great like point number one on our masterclass to what she said. If you're aspiring to take a step into anything that might be unfamiliar or scary, surround yourself by people who are your champions.
Yeah.
Not people who are skeptical of your success or skeptical of what you're capable of doing. You don't need many. You don't need fans. You just need your family.
Yeah.
Like my family, I could do nothing wrong. I mean, I could, but I couldn't for my family. And it could be a handful of friends. I'm not someone who keeps 20,000 people around me. I've had the same friends over the years. Creating your community that gives you a solid foundation is most important in any step you're going to take. So that's lesson number one in our masterclass. Continue.
Absolutely. And anyways, so मैंने बहुत जुगाड़ किया. I went and I told my mom that, look, I'm going to do this. Whether you get it, you don't get it, I'm doing it. She's like, okay, let's do it. I told my dad, he told me, no way. And then somebody told me that there's a new film school called Whistling Woods that has just started. Why don't you go apply there? I went and I applied. The fee was very, very high. And I could hear some dard, but
Real talk.
But then luckily, that institution gave us an option of taking up a student loan. I took it up. मुझे कुछ idea नहीं था मैं कैसे भरूंगी. I was like, just do it, because I was the only person who could make my dreams happen, you know. So I took some help from my mom. I did it. But unfortunately, I got thrown out of film school because my attendance was so low. Yeah, because I don't know, I was too young. You know, I feel when you're 16 is not the age to go into a professional space. Like, I mean, that's my opinion, because there's so much to learn. And my faculty was brilliant, right? Nasir sir was heading it, but I wasn't mature enough to kind of understand the opportunity that I had anyway. So when that happened, I realized I'm screwed. You know, because now I'll be pushed into conventional forms of education, and I didn't want to do that. And I had this opportunity, it went, I didn't make the most of it. But then somebody told me, I was like, okay, hustle more, ab kya karu, kya dekhu, kaise karu. Somebody told me, Yashraj Films mein ek casting assistant director ki naukri hai. Now I wanted to be an actor. I was like, ding, okay, let's do it. You know, so for me, I feel the biggest learning of my journey has been just be at it. You don't ever stop.
Persistence.
Lesson
number 2. My version of persistence is similar. I was kind of thrown into the pageant world. I became Miss India and Miss World when I was in 2000. I was 17, 18. I literally came out of high school, and abhi maine apne boards bhi nahi diye the. And suddenly, you know, people are looking at you. जैसे अभी तो मुझे आदत हो गई है, आप लोग मुझे पे ऐसे बैठ के देख रहे हैं. लेकिन 17 साल की उम्र में, 18 साल की उम्र में, when everyone is looking at you and everyone is expecting you to be at your best behavior, never say anything wrong, it's tough. And because I was a pageant winner, I was expected to be perfect in every way, which a lot of girls are when you're coming into the field through that. And the pressure of all of that was, I didn't know what my next step was, but it was thrust upon me, because अगर आप pageant जीतते हो तो फिल्में आपके पास आती ही हैं. अभी मैंने सोचा that was the natural progression, and sure it must have been. I feel like it was some form of divinity where, you know, I was made to find my vocation, या जो भी मेरा future था मुझे मिला. किसी तरह से भगवान ने मुझे उस दिशा में भेजा. And the one thing that I think is persistence in your goal, like Bhumi, or persistence in making every day successful. Both will take you to the journey of success. So you wake up in the morning and you say, आज मुझे क्या achieve करना है? आज मुझे जो भी आपका होगा. आज मुझे ये मास्टर क्लास करनी है. आज मुझे घर जाके ये करना है, जो भी है. Whatever your achievement of the day is, think about that in the morning. When you wake up, आप coffee पी रहे हो, आप जो भी कर रहे हो. Think about what you want to achieve during the day and just do that. If you get, जैसे मैं एग्जाम्पल हमेशा देती हूँ, जैसे एग्जाम्स होते हैं ना, फाइनल एग्जाम्स, तो अगर आप अपने हर टेस्ट में अगर आपको ए आया तो द फाइनल एग्जाम्स आर नॉट दैट डिफिकल्ट ना, बिकॉज देन यू आर नॉट प्रेशर्ड. एंड आई वाज ऑलवेज अ लास्ट मिनट स्टूडेंट, डोंट गेट मी रॉन्ग, most of us are last minute students. But in life, if every day is a pursuit of excellence in your future, or in your profession, in your personal life, just a pursuit of excellence. And it doesn't mean every day will be excellent, but you're pursuing it. Suddenly, when you look back, like me 23 years later, I'm like, all right, I did okay. But all I did was every single day just put my head down and say, आज मैं survive कैसे करूँगी? क्योंकि मेरा हाथ पकड़ने वाला कोई नहीं था, मुझे सिखाने वाला कोई नहीं था. मेरे पेरेंट्स डॉक्टर्स बेचारे, उनको क्या मालूम फिल्म इंडस्ट्री कैसे चलती है, एक्टिंग कैसे होती है. तो मैंने एक चीज़ स्टार्ट की जब मैंने फिल्में शुरू की. मैं मॉनिटर पे बैठती थी. एक बार मैंने हेयर मेकअप कर लिया. आई यूज्ड टू कम टू सेट एंड आई यूज्ड टू ऑलवेज जस्ट सिट बिहाइंड द डायरेक्टर. अभी भी मेरी ये बड़ी बुरी आदत है. सम डायरेक्टर्स फील लाइक आई एम ऑलवेज ऑन द, बट आई लाइक टू सिट ऑन सेट. आई डोंट यूजली गो बैक टू माई वैन आफ्टर आई हैव कम आउट, बिकॉज आई लर्न चॉइसेस. अब अगर मैं चुपचाप बैठती हूँ, मैं अपना ओपिनियन नहीं देती, क्योंकि वो मेरा काम नहीं है. डायरेक्टर का काम डायरेक्टर का काम है, एक्टर का काम एक्टर का काम है. एंड वी आर वेसल्स. एज एक्टर्स वी आर गिवन वेट. आप लोग बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस देते हैं हम लोगों को. हमारा काम सिर्फ एक्शन और कट के बीच में आता है. बाकी कितने सारे लोग करते हैं. हमारा फेस पोस्टर पे होता है, बट काम एक्शन और कट के बीच में होता है. येस, ऑफ कोर्स यू हैव टू ब्रिंग टू लाइफ किसी लेखक की कहानी या किसी निर्देशक का विजन. उसको हमको समझना है, and then we have to bring it to life. That's our job. But it's a limited job. We stand on the shoulders of at least 200 people. At least. There's no chance that we would be able to do what we do if all of those people didn't exist, right? So it humbles you. It puts you in a place. So मुझे सेट पे बैठना बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, और मैं सुनती हूँ कि डायरेक्टर ने ये, इस शॉट को क्यों ऐसे डिसाइड किया, या फिल्म मेकर ने और जो डीओपी ने, कैमरामैन ने ये लेंस क्यों डिसाइड किया, वाई आर वी नाउ कमिंग क्लोजर टू माई फेस व्हेन आई एम गिविंग दिस इमोशनल मोनोलॉग सपोज. तो जो डायरेक्टर्स की अगर आप चॉइसेस या आप फिल्म मेकर्स के साथ उनको ऑब्जर्व करना शुरू करें एज फिल्म स्टूडेंट्स और एज सिनेफाइल्स, दैट मेक्स यू लर्न सो मच मोर ऑफ इंटेंशन. एंड दैट डजंट नेसेसरली ओनली मीन इन आवर जॉब. सिर्फ सिनेमा में नहीं, इंटेंशन हर चीज़ में इंपॉर्टेंट होती है. आपका क्या इंटेंशन है हर सुबह का, आपका क्या इंटेंशन है जब आप काम पे जा रहे हो, जो भी आपका काम हो, या आपका क्या इंटेंशन है जब आप किसी से बात कर रहे हैं. इंटेंशन अगर आपको मालूम है, आपकी ज़िंदगी बहुत सही रहेगी. एंड आई थिंक नाउ ऑब्वियसली आई कैन से ऑल दिस इन रेट्रोस्पेक्ट. व्हेन आई वाज डूइंग इट मुझे नहीं मालूम था मैं कर रही थी, बट आज मास्टर क्लास के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं तो दिस इज़ एन एक्सपीरियंस थिंग. फॉर मी persistence was important, and every day trying to be like, all right, I'm going to keep my head above water and look back 5 days later and, you know, you did it.
Yeah. I want to ask you something. You know, after Miss World, you got your first film. You got your initial few films. What was that moment when you realized, okay, now I can choose what I want to do?
Oh, many films later. I think around after Krish, maybe. Yeah, probably after the first Krish, maybe somewhere there. Before that, it was always oh my gosh, what's the next one I'm going to do? What is the opportunity that's going to come to me? I picked from what came to me. After the first Krish, I think because I had just done Aitraz as well, and I had just done Krish as well. I had done work which gave me a solid foundation. I got critical acclaim. I had people telling me I know my job, even though I didn't know I knew my job. But that is when I started, that was a very clear time when I started seeking work that would challenge me. Like fashion was a time when I took that decision. It was right around Krish. And I remember Madhur sir and I met. And, you know, at that time I was told कि लड़कियाँ female oriented film सिर्फ अपने end की career के end में करती हैं national award के लिए. तुम्हारी तो अभी शुरू हुई है, you've just done Krish, you've just done Aitraz, you're having such a moment, female oriented films क्यों कर रहे हो. उस ज़माने में ज़्यादा होता भी नहीं था. This is early 2000s, like 2005, 6, somewhere there. But I just didn't know any better, you know. I loved the script, I loved what Madhur was talking about. हम लोग 6 महीने बैठे, I remember, with the writers, Neeru, me, Madhur sir, and all of us, 6 महीने बैठे, we worked on the script, and it was just a passion project. मुझे नहीं मालूम था it would become what it did. But I think Madhur sir knew. But we worked on it for 6 months. We figured out, I remember मेरे गोवा के घर में, मुझे बस यही मालूम, मुझे काम मालूम है, मुझे और कुछ नहीं मालूम, मैं सिर्फ काम करती हूँ. मैं टीम को गोवा लेकर गई, मेरा एक घर था वहाँ पे. हम लोगों ने एक पूरा फैशन का एक वॉल बनाया था कि मेघना माथुर की पूरी ज़िंदगी कहाँ से कहाँ होगी. जब वो शुरू में फ्रॉम अ स्मॉल टाउन ऑफ चंडीगढ़, तब वो कैसी लगेगी, उसके लुक्स कैसे होंगे, उसकी इमोशनल चेंजेस कैसे होंगे, फिजिकल चेंजेस कैसे होंगे. एंड आई थिंक all I focused on was, you know, immersing myself into who is this girl. So if you're playing a character, if you ever think about acting or if you're thinking about playing a character, what worked for me, and I realized this at that time because that's when I started seeking work that was for me instead of being part of a big project only, is get to know your character like your best friend. आप अपने बेस्ट फ्रेंड को कितने अच्छे से जानते हो. आपको मालूम है अगर वो रो रही है तो वो क्यों रो रही है. आपको मालूम है अगर उसका दिल दुख रहा है वो क्यों दुख रहा है. आपको मालूम है उसकी मम्मी पापा फैमिली बैकग्राउंड सब मालूम है. Like that, get to know your character before you walk onto set. So as soon as you get a script, you have to just. मुझे पंकज कपूर ने एक बार बोला था, मैं विशाल सर के साथ 7 खून माफ करने जा रही थी एंड मुझे एक्टिंग क्लास करनी थी बिकॉज मैंने कभी एक्टिंग क्लास ज़्यादा की नहीं थी. आई थिंक किशोर नमित, आई वेंट टू देयर एक्टिंग क्लास फॉर अबाउट कपल ऑफ वीक्स, बट बिसाइड्स दैट मैंने किया नहीं था. तो मुझे बहुत भूख थी फैशन के बाद कि मुझे फॉर्मली एक्टिंग सीखनी है. तो मैं नसीर सर के क्लास में गई एक बार. आई डिड अबाउट 10 days with him and his students, and then I went to Pankaj sir because he was my neighbor that time. I said, "Mujhe aap can you please work with me on the script?" And he said, "What work do you need?" I said, "Just, you know, tell me to make what choices should I make? This is a very complex character." And he said, "Every answer that you need is in your script. Every answer. Take the time. Stage mein kehte hain ye. Take the time to think about when you enter stage right and you exit stage left, and when you're going to enter again, us beech mein kya hua? what happened to your character when she exited. So same way in a scene, आप देखते हैं कोई mall में लड़ाई हुई, उसके बाद we've come back home and she's really upset and she's sitting down. But उस दौरान क्या हुआ? गाड़ी में किसी से बात की उसने, किसी ने उसको upset किया. कोई isolated emotion नहीं होता है adults में, बच्चों में होता है. If you see like when kids get angry, they'll shout and stomp their feet. They don't care कि आप public में हैं, आप कहाँ हैं. उनको isolated emotions. But as you mature into adults, we develop complex emotions. So in every given moment, you're thinking 4 or 5 things. Like I'm thinking right now, bhaiya meri saadi theek hai, garmi ho rahi hai, am I interesting? Should I be making a joke? Like that Bhumi is looking so pretty. Like all of these things I'm thinking. So when I'm doing the scene, you are seeing me being aware of all of the things that I'm thinking. So when you do a scene, think about what your character is feeling. Garmi bhi ho sakti hai, beech mein ye kar rahi hu main. है ना? तो आप सीन में कर सकते हो. And that is what improv is, right? That is what improvisation is, and that is what we as actors bring to the table, which is, these are the lines, and now what am I going to bring from this familiarity that I have created with the character that I know, so that मैं इसमें जब जान भरूं, तो वो निखर के आए. And that's, I think, what separates people who have the ability to go beyond the words in a script, don't you think?
Absolutely. In fact, I learned this on my first film. So जब मेरी पहली film थी दम लगा के हईशा, obviously, I got the kilos on. There was this transformation.
How much weight did you put on for the movie?
Little more than 30 kgs. I stopped counting after that. Like once I touched 95 kilos, I said, I can't do it. And I remember.
You were so amazing in that movie.
Thank
First
you.
of all, the weight and all great, but just your acting, man.
Thank
you were
you.
amazing in that movie.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, तब मुझे पहली film थी, but कहीं पे, when you go through, when you change physically also so much for a character, there's a lot of padding that you have.
In what way?
In ways that many a times people look past moments of weaknesses in a performance. This was something I was
physically you have
physically
transformed.
You've done something
Got
so
it.
great, and that
That's
was
true.
something I was very, very aware of. I was like, ये मैं अपने साथ होने नहीं दे सकती, because I'm so critical of all the work that I do. I've only just started to enjoy my films.
I'm so glad.
I could just not do it.
I still don't enjoy my films.
Oh my God, it takes me like maybe 5 or 6 viewings to watch it, to like understand बाकी क्या हो रहा है film में, because I'm just like, Bhumi, yaar, you, and see, as an actor,
You watch it 5 or 6 times?
I have to, no? I to go into every theatre. I'm like, क्या बोल रही audience? मेरे पास बहुत time है life में, clearly.
No, you're passionate about your work. I don't do that. I usually watch my movies the one time when they show it before the premiere, screening होती है. उसके बाद मुझसे नहीं देखा जाता. मैं तो premiere में भी नहीं बैठती हूँ. I always find things that I don't like or choices that could have been better. So I don't like to, but why sit in it? Why sit in it?
I get very stressed.
Yeah,
But then I just have to, like, I don't know, it's just something that's expected of you to do, right? So I just do it. I didn't know that there's an exit. Now that you've told me there is, maybe I'll do it.
There's an exit. There's always an exit. And I think approaching, and this took me a little while to learn too, but you're younger, you're going to get to that place where now you're enjoying your success, your movies. But I think taking the stress out of the public nature of the job, right? Like our job is extremely public. At least I've grown up in just the limelight. So everything in my life has been completely public. So you have to separate that aspect of it and the pressure of what audience bhagwan hai. They are going to decide whether they like your film or not. You can't do anything about it because you're standing on the shoulders of 200 people and it's not just your mistake. You realize?
Yeah.
We are given way too much credence because our faces are on posters.
Yeah.
Sab log and we as actors also sometimes think, oh, meri picture kharab hogi, maine kharab kar diya. I did it. It's not about I. Movies are not made with an I. Yeah. As soon as we realize that, it becomes a collaboration. The pressure comes off of you. Enjoy the process. The process and the journey of making a movie is so difficult, so hard. And acting is mostly waiting. You're usually just waiting in the trailer for the shot to be ready, or you're just waiting around for the shot to be ready. And you have to
Not switch off.
Yes. You have to stay on and be aware. And many actors have different ways. Like there are, actors that'll sit on set and like really stay in character. There are actors who don't like staying in character. For me, it doesn't work. By the time I get to the shot, I'm bored of the emotion. So I don't like staying in character.
Yeah.
I need to switch off. As soon as you call cut, I'm gone. I will, laugh. I'll be behaving completely unlike my character. And then while I'm doing my touch-ups, final touches before I start my scene, I take a second to just collect myself and remind myself of because I'm a very prepped actor. I do a lot of prep. Like I told you, I know my characters really well. My scripts end up becoming twice the size because I have a lot of notes and I think about what happens in between scenes, where has my character gone, how she's influenced. So by the time I come on set, I know her really well. So I'm not stressing on set, and that helps me be so completely free in the moment. In fact, I've had filmmakers who said, "Arey, wo jo kiya tha na pichle shot mein wo karna," and I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember what I did. So I'm like, I don't remember what I did. Mujhe aap specifically, so then I'm shown the shot and I'm like, oh, okay, you want that thing. But when you're in the moment, when you're truly, truly in the moment, guys, I'm telling you, that's when the best magic happens. I'm glad we said that together. When you're listening to your co-actor, not thinking about your next line. If you're thinking about your next line, the camera is seeing it. And I can see it because I'm closer to a co-actor than the camera even. So when I'm working with a co-actor, मुझे immediately मालूम है कि वो अपनी next line सोच रहे हैं अभी. Because camera मुझसे दूर है, but मेरी आँखों में दिखाई देता है. So in the same way, you have to इतना मंथन करना पड़ता है अपनी लाइनों का, वो पहले करके आओ. Finish it off. So that when you come on set, you're just jogging. You're like, you're just playing. And then you're not inhibited, then you're not nervous, and you can just bring out this amazing magic which is inexplicable. So jab director bolta hai, phir se wo karna, so you don't know what you've done because you know it so well.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. So for me, after a few films, like maybe my first 2 or 3 films, I realized that whenever I go over-rehearsed, not learning the lines, knowing the character, knowing your lines, of course, but start mein na, har cheez jo mujhe sikhai gayi thi, I would try and implement into every scene. And that's when I realized that cracking those scenes on set were the toughest for me. Because I had just prepared myself ki, acha, ye to aise hi karungi, director to yehi chahta hoga. And many a times you also rehearse with the director.
But a lot of young actors do that.
Right.
I did it too. I used to do my lines mirror ke सामने या किसी के साथ करके, and मैं हमेशा अपना पूरा scene decide करके जाती थी कि scene ऐसे होने वाला है. But it's like life.
Correct.
It's like if you go into a relationship, or whether it's a friendship, a boyfriend, whatever, a parent, if you go into any situation and plan the whole thing yourself, and then anything goes out of order, जैसे अगर आपने बोला अच्छा मैं यहाँ जाऊँगी, इतने बजे मम्मी बाहर आएंगी, शादी में ये होने वाला है, वो होने वाला है, and वो नहीं होता है, हम कितने स्ट्रेस हो जाते हैं ना, तो वही होता है सीन में, क्योंकि एक scene is made up of so many people's choices, not just yours. So मेरे साथ 2-3 actors, नाम नहीं लूँगी क्योंकि मैं नाम नहीं लेती हूँ, ऐसे भी थे जो मैं उसको सोलो परफॉर्मेंस कहती हूँ. They come in, they've decided that this is the scene that they want to do, and everybody else has to cater to that, and वो सोलो परफॉर्मेंस कर रहे हैं, and they don't wait for you to finish your line in your time. They don't wait for you to take a pause or a breath because they've decided they have to do a scene.
And at times they also tell you how you should do it.
Oh, that's the worst.
I've been told and I'm like, wow, okay.
No, an actor can't tell me, a director can tell me.
Exactly.
I always tell any co-actor, I'm like, why don't we bring the director into the mix and let's talk about it. I'm absolutely a talking person. You do your job, I'll do my job. Yeah. I know my job. Now I can say it. Obviously, when I was young, I couldn't. But after reaching a point where you've proven yourself, where you've built yourself, where you've given successful movies, where you've given successful performances, where people believe you when you're, creating a character, people believe the story you're telling. Once you've done that, don't allow somebody else or another co-actor to tell you that, they're better than you, whoever they might be. You know your job, have a sense of confidence. Yes, your director, absolutely. And if you want to bring your director in, that's what I do, because I don't like confrontation. I'm very, मैं confront भी बड़ी gently करती हूँ. मैं लड़ाई नहीं करती, मैं gently लड़ाई करती हूँ. So I usually, if a co-actor will say, unless you're like, of course, senior and someone I admire and somebody who makes sense, but if it's just someone who wants you to cater to their scene, कि मैंने ये decide किया, जिसमें मेरे साथ हुआ था एक बार, ये shoot बंद हो गई थी, monologue type था, and again मैं नाम नहीं लूँगी, guess कर लेना अगर कर पाओगे तो, but monologue type था actor का, वो आए, उन्होंने decide किया कि वो इस तरह सीन बोलेंगे, मुझे देखेंगे भी नहीं क्योंकि उनका मोनोलॉग है, बट सीन मेरे बारे में था, अबाउट मेरा इमोशन उनके साथ क्या था, द सीन वाज अबाउट हाउ माय कैरेक्टर फील्स टुवर्ड्स हिम, बट आई डोंट नो व्हाट हिज रीजनिंग वाज, वो उनका मोनोलॉग चल रहा है और वो करे जा रहे हैं, मैं आई एम ट्राइंग टू गेट माय लाइन इन एंड आई कांट, सो फाइनली आई सेड ऑलराइट, एंड आई went to the filmmaker and I said, listen, I really admire the actor I'm working with, but this is really tough for me. If there's a cue, I need to be able to say my line in that cue, and I need my co-actor to listen to how I've said the line, because every take, my line is different, and every take, his line is the same. तो तुम अपना solo performance करे जा रहे हो, और मैं आपको कुछ different दे रही हूँ, and you're not reacting to that because you've decided what the scene is. So and the director saw that. We stopped shoot. It wasn't a confrontation. We went back to the hotel. We all sat together and we did a reading of the scene. And we created a collaborative environment. And the next day, the scene was amazing and the movie did really, really well. But I don't like to get bullied.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who takes bullying sitting down. But I'm also not someone who fights back in an aggressive manner. I do it in a dignified way and I try to find a solution. I'm a very solution-oriented person. I love peace. I love to go on a set, have a great time. I love to have my chatter-putter in between shots and, you know, observe why the grip guy has put the shadow over there. Achha, usse kya hua? You know, there's so many things, just like life. We live life every day and we miss so many things. But if you sit down and observe why people do what they do, remember someone's amazing performance, even 7 years later, you know, if you are a student of life, you can be a student of cinema forever. I will always be a student of cinema. Even 23 years later, cannot, every set I go to, I spend just as much on my character that I have done 15 years ago.
You know, in everybody's career, there are those specific performances where you feel ki, okay, I've grown as an actor. You know, like for me, it was Dam Laga Ke Hai Shad. Then when I did Son Chiriya, I felt that. I felt that with Sant Ki Aankh, with Badhai Do, and even with my last film, Thank You for Coming.
Do you feel like it's been a trajectory of growth?
I hope it has been. I hope. At least I feel it has been. But for you, which are those performances where you felt like... See, because also directors, there are some directors that really switch it in you, right? They teach you a new approach, a new way of looking at the material that you've been given. And there are very few of those that can kind of help you upgrade your craft in many ways. So have you ever had that experience, even if it's like one singular performance?
No, I've had many of those experiences. And not because each filmmaker is like amazing, but because everyone has something to bring to the table. So if you have become a filmmaker, and there are many filmmakers that, you know, I've worked with a lot of first-time filmmakers in my career, and I like to do that because I think everybody deserves a first opportunity. Somebody took a chance on me, and I should take a chance on people. So I've worked with a lot of first-time filmmakers, and those are a lot more collaborative because, you know, it's the first time. But I think with, even now, even my last film I was filming right now, I learned a lot from the filmmaker because it was a completely different approach. So whether that was right in the beginning, working with Raj Kanwar sir, and like, I didn't know anything during Andaz. Like, I didn't know rubbish. Like, I didn't know how to say lines. I didn't know what to do. But what I learned from him was humor. And that, I don't know, my character was supposed to be funny. And he was a really funny Punjabi guy. Rest in peace, Raji. And he showed me how to be funny. I took a little funny from him. Moving on, you know, worked with filmmakers. When I worked with Abbas Mastan on Aitraz, they taught me how to curb my nerves. And even if I was not convinced of my character's choices, that's not my decision to make. I'm playing a character. I can't decide what she does or not. Whether she's bad, whether she's good, it's my job to do it with conviction.
You can't judge.
You can't judge your character. that was something I learned during Aetraz. I remember during Krish, Rakesh sir, just the big commercial nature of movies and how that mega scale and how to navigate hours of hundreds and hundreds of cast and crew and VFX, and like you're sitting for a 12-hour day and you do 4 shots. I did not know what that was like and why that took. So I remember I used to sit with him so much and just on set, watching him and Hrithik talk, or like the producers and the DOP talk, and what they were doing in those 4-5 hours was setting up a shot, which looked incredible when you watch the movie, but it takes 5 hours to set up a 4-second shot. So imagine how much work it takes to make an entire movie. So I learned the hard work and gravity of the crew and how much it takes for everyone to make one shot happen during Krish. So like that, I've had many, many experiences with almost every film that I've done where I've learned something even now. And I look for that. Whenever I go into a job, any new job, I will always look for like, what's the new thing that I'm taking from this one? Because otherwise you're stagnant, and being stagnant is so boring. I like to be like a river, just everywhere. Constantly moving,
Fluid.
Constantly changing, constantly evolving, constantly growing, and maybe becoming an ocean one day.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be a pond. No ponds for us.
No ponds for
No
us.
ponds for
At
us.
all. Ever.
No, never.
Look, you have such a strong voice, right? Like all your characters resonate with, I think a lot of your characters resonate with what you stand for, what you believe in. But how do you hold your ground? How do you continue being so authentic to who you are? Just original.
So tough. Am I original?
You are. Oh my God, you're so original.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a very simple answer. That you have to remember the person you are when you wake up in the morning, without the 2 hours of glam that 7 people have done on me, without the amazing crowd that is applauding everything I'm saying. When you wake up in the morning and you go to the kitchen to get chai, वो बंदी कौन है? उसको कोई देखेगा? वो कैसी लगती है ब्रश करने से पहले, सोने से पहले? You have to remember the person you are, and I think at least I do, my job is a job. It is not my existence. It is not my designation. It is not who I am. Who I am is the woman that goes home. Who I am is the person that is going to see my mom right now. Who I am is the person that's looking forward to eating dabeli. Who I am is the person that's really missing my daughter. Who I am and my husband. Who I am is that. When I go to work, it's my job. So if you separate, because our jobs are tough, we are public people, so it can consume you completely. You feel like, agar Twitter pe aapke bare mein 6 log ya 1000 log bura bol rahe hain, to aapki puri zindagi kharab. It's not true. And ye sabke liye hai. Social media is a boon, and it's tough. It's tough to live in the world of it. You can't get consumed by comments. You can't get consumed by public opinion on social, because that's not real. What is real is not the viral stories. What is real is how you make people feel when you meet them. It's so easy to pick up on someone and troll a public person because they've been a public person for a long time. We forget to look at the human behind them sometimes. So I like to I'm not looking for you guys to look for the human behind the public persona. I've stopped doing that a long time ago. I don't have expectations from people to see me as my own self. I only have that expectation from my loved ones. So when I go out for my job, I become who I need to. I become my characters. I'll do what my audience requires me, but I'm very sure that the person I am is the person that is when I go home, or when you and I are sitting and chatting on the stairs. Just remind yourself that all the hoo-ha isn't necessarily the definition of who you are. Because, life is, you're born alone, you die alone. It's a solitary journey. It is your legacy that you leave behind, and your legacy will be what you do. It's not who you are. A little complicated, that answer.
No, it was beautiful.
I'm glad. I was like, was that a little complicated?
You know, through my work, I've always tried to kind of give out a thought system, you know, a belief system, an opinion. Whether people accept it, they don't accept it, that's absolutely fine. But many a times...
Through your work?
Through
or,
my work.
Okay.
And even my work on screen, off screen.
Gotcha.
Either way. Because the idea is, at least for me, it's very important to bring about any kind of positive change. And from being your fan, and I've observed your career for such a long time, it would be safe for me to say that you also believe in the same. Many a times I am asked to keep quiet, or they call me difficult, or they call me too opinionated, or you know, ये हमेशा message वाली चीजें ही करेगी. You know, she's an activist. She has way too much activism. It makes people uncomfortable. Did you go through it?
Yes, I still do.
Yeah.
Every day.
How do you deal with it?
You have to be true to your moment, Bhumi. If you're feeling that I need to stand up for this and I want to stand up for it and I can is important. There are many people who want to stand up for many things, but can you? And there are many variations of why you can and why you can't. So if you can stand up for what you believe in, you must. And there have been times where I can and I have, and there have been times where I can't and I haven't. And it's tough. As a public person, you're expected to have an opinion on everything. You're expected to have a say on everything. But it's not true. You may or may not know enough about a subject to comment, you know. Why ghusao when you don't know enough about something? So I think it's really important to discern the moment. And I mean, I think that maybe maturity taught me this, or now I'm, you know, in my 40s and I'm a little bit more, but when I was younger, I kind of was like you too. I was very, you know, I believe in this. I'm going to go after it and I'm going to say this. I was called difficult. I was called opinionated. I've had, you know, problems with many, many people because I'm not, you know, I'm not कि सीधी ये line है तुम्हारी उस पे चलो. मैं अपनी line बनाती हूँ और अच्छी सी साफ सुथरी quietly अपनी line बनाती हूँ और आपको मेरे साथ चलना है चलो. I'm not a trend follower. I like to set trends. So I think you'll navigate your path, and there are times where it'll become really overwhelming. And what I learned to do was I shut down. I go home. I don't talk to I shut down the noise because it's just noise. What if someone's calling you useless, does that make you useless? It doesn't. So let the naysayers say whatever they do. Be true to your God. Be true to your family. Be true to your fans. Be true to your loved ones. And do the best you can. And that's okay. Doing the best you can is amazing, you guys. Everyone, just do the best you can. Take away all that other pressure and life will be good. We live in very difficult times. Just do the best you can.
You know, when Dam Laga Ke Aisha happened to me, everyone was like, kya choice hai, kya choice hai.
In what? In a good way? Or
in a good way. In a very good way. But the truth is, मेरे पास कोई choice ही नहीं थी. वही एक choice थी. है ना? मैं भी, when I thought of being an actor, I wanted the glam, the hair, the makeup, हवा उड़ रही है, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है. But then came a Dam Laga Ke Aisha, and I took it up because that was my only opportunity to get into this world that I wanted to be a part of so bad. You know, and then came another film. होता गया. तीसरी या चौथी film के बाद I started choosing the kind of work I want to do. I had the power to say no. You got it early on in your life. Is there any work that you look back at today, or is there anything that you wish you still want to do? I mean, I know the world is your oyster and there's everything. I mean, you can do all genre, all of it. But ऐसी कोई एक चीज जो आप अभी भी करना चाहते हो कि मुझे ऐसा किरदार करना है, that, you know, this is one genre that I want to ace, or this is one path that I want to do?
I mean, बहुत सारी चीजें. I think I've just about, I spent about 12 to 15 years in Hindi cinema and about 6 to 8 years in American work. So I think there's like a lot that I want to do in my English language work, because I think the variety of work that I've done in my portfolio in India, I haven't achieved in America. So I want to be able to expand that because I'm getting amazing opportunities to do it, or I will be, hopefully. That's one. The second thing I think I want to do is I'm at this place right now where I want to feel really challenged. I'm looking for that again. So I'm hoping that in the next 1 or 2 years when, hopefully the strike comes to a place where we can start having these conversations again, that I can find something that I really can sink my teeth into and just do the work that I did in Hindi cinema. Like you said, you made an unusual choice, right? It was not like the typical Hindi movie heroine for your first movie. But I think that was a time when that was changing in Hindi cinema. When you joined, that was when this era was changing, where people were looking for movies that were not just escapist, where people were looking for realism or real characters in theaters. Not just like, ek art film aa gayi. When I joined, it was called parallel cinema.
No, abhi bhi many people call it that.
Really?
Yeah, trust me.
It's not parallel, guys.
At all.
Cinema is cinema.
Cinema, absolutely.
But I remember at that time. So I think when you came in, it was such a breath of fresh air, especially for me also as an actor, because I did not grow up romanticizing the blowing hair and the saris.
Really?
I loved the movies. But I didn't grow up with that कि मुझे slow motion में भागना है.
मेरे को तो सिर्फ वो करना था.
I know. I mean, I wanted to do it after but I didn't know कि I wasn't a fan of the movies when I grew up. My father was a fan of music, so I grew up with lots of music in our house. चाहे वो लता मंगेशकर से लेके Doors तक, from the Beatles to Sahil Ludhianvi's poetry. My parents, it was a very musical home. And acting, my dad was a joker, so he would mimic and all. But it was just never, I didn't grow up with oh my gosh, this is amazing. I used to love MD and Shri Ma'am, of course. And I remember I used to be, girl crushes forever, still are. And I think that I thought that that's not real. Human beings don't do that. That's not a job. वो तो श्रीदेवी करती हैं. तुम थोड़ी ना कर सकती हो. It was never an aspiration or an ambition either. So when I started doing it, and for the first time, I'll never forget this. I was in a chiffon sari in Jungfrau, Switzerland. And it was snow, so much snow. It's a green sari. And obviously the guy is dressed in head to toe fur. And I am in a blouse and a chiffon sari. That is the day. And I was standing in a balti of hot water for the close-up. And I'm saying the lines like this. Uske upar se helicopter hai upar, helicopter shot le rahe hain on top of the Jungfrau. Like this. Meanwhile, my co-actor is trying to keep me warm. And there's a hot water ki balti under my sari so that it's hidden from the helicopter. Not glamorous, guys. Not glamorous. So tough. It's so tough. So for me, the glamour of the movies became recognizing my characters, becoming friends with these girls, understanding why they do what they do. So it was very quickly taken out from me. It looks beautiful, of course. Even now I want to have hair. Constantly, if there's a fan on, you will see me turn towards it. It's just natural. We all like it. Once you're in the movies, it becomes, especially Hindi movies, it becomes your natural. But the glamour of it was taken away from me really quickly. And I just started enjoying the medium of the work and how much, and the possibilities of what you can do with a character.
The way I deal with failure is that I don't think I deal with it. I just move on. I work. Yeah. I'm at it. I'm like, okay, this didn't work. There's nothing I can do about it. Work harder. Maybe
or just move on to the next thing.
Absolutely move on to the next thing, because
life is only evolution.
Nothing you can do.
If something's not working, move on.
Well, what do you do? Look, because if a film doesn't work, and there are many aspiring actors and filmmakers here, and when you have success, you have failure as well. How do you deal with it? Because suddenly that journey becomes so lonely. If it's successful, it's
Everyone
usually shared.
Yeah.
But if it's not, it's just you. And most times if it's a film that's led by a female character, then it just becomes like, you're doomed, because I mean, it is a gender conversation.
Yes, that is a lot of it, but that is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Is when you have a female-led film, because we have such few.
Yeah.
And because, we are seeing successes of female-led films more and more, obviously. But that's tough, because when a female-led film doesn't do well, I feel the collective failure on behalf of all women. Like, I feel like, I've taken them a few steps back. I've taken women a few steps back. This has to work, because there are so few of us that get the opportunity to do this, that we have to do it well. Whether that's filmmakers behind the camera, whether that's actors in front of the camera, whether that's writers, or any medium that you're in, hair, makeup, whatever. Like, you just feel the sense of, oh my gosh, I'm going to let womankind down because we have such few opportunities. But I've learned to pivot my mind around that it's not personal. When a movie works, it works because it has something to say. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it didn't say what it needed to say. Sure. So take away the power of making it personal and just move on to the next thing. That's why I was saying it's easy to move on if you take away the power of feeling like, oh, ये तो सब मेरी गलती है, ये तो मैंने किया, ये तो मेरा था. कैसे आपका था? 150 people worked on this movie, huh? And then it's not just yours. So pick up, have a tub of ice cream, cry a few tears with your friends, go out, and then have a pizza, move on.
Maybe for a few nights.
Yeah, maybe. I do it for at least a week.
Yeah,
it takes me a week.
Me too.
ठीक है. It's like a breakup. A bad movie is like a breakup.
But
you pick up and move on na eventually.
Yeah. A breakup I feel like I can still deal with.
Oh my God.
I still can. This is, I'm like, kaise?
Girl, we need to talk more. Please. Itna pressure? Nahi. Bilkul nahi. You can't, we live in this is too public a field for you to live under the pressure of it. You have to, for us to be able to evolve and grow, and that's natural for any field and any person. And I've seen this I mentor a lot of young people, whether that's in my production company, whether that's in my team. It's something that I really enjoy doing, because I'm self-taught. So I have a lot of, gems from my own experiences that I'm not giving you gems from somebody else's experience. I'm just talking about my own experiences. So I try to help people navigate that. But the one thing that I have seen when you come into a field, and you really want to make it, we wind ourselves really tight. It's like a rubber band. You wind yourself up really tight because you really want to do a good job. You want to, be the best dialogue. You want to look the best. You want to, when the movie's coming out, you want to be the like it has to be. But itna tight jab hota na rubber band, wo snap karta hai. Then you don't have the fluidity of poetry. If you want to be a poet, an artist, you have to be free of shackles. You have to be free of pressure. You have to be free of expectation. And you have to go into action, and between action and cut, not even think about what's happening in your life, nothing. And it's 4-5 seconds ka to kaam hai. 10 seconds maybe, for one shot. So for that moment, just take it off of you. And just in life also. Nothing, and it's easier said than done. Obviously, I have days too where I feel extremely pressured. But I try to tangibly move myself away from what I know I'm feeling, which is the weight of expectations. And try to set your expectations of yourself, even though you're in a public position or in a public, you're craving to be in a public life. If you want to be in the movies, it's public, right? If you any form of it, if you're part of the crew, if you're director, there's a sort of public facey to it. So I think that you have to create a nature where you set your expectations, and I set my expectations very high for myself. I'm always striving for excellence, but it's my failure, not yours. You don't get to tell me how bad or good it was. I get to do it. And that's when you get to be an artist, and you get to be free, and you get to be fluid.
I want to ask you something. Okay. Has there ever been aise kabhi hua that, you're on a set and
I feel like I'm going to say yes.
I think you might. But ki matlab, you have a director, and obviously, he's the captain of the ship, and your director knows everything. Absolutely. But has there ever been a time where you felt like, no, maybe yes. He doesn't?
Yes. But if I tell you what I do in that scenario, then every director,
that was going to be my next question.
but then
I
the
said,
next
how do you
director I
deal with
work
it?
with will know what I do. So I don't want to tell you. But here we are. I am not usually a micromanaging actor. So I'm not usually someone who watches my shots or because I know what I do. I'm the only one who knows what has happened between action and cut. So because मैं कर रही हूँ, तो मुझे मालूम है ये अच्छा हुआ या नहीं हुआ, मुझे मालूम है मैंने झूठ से बोला या नहीं बोला, मुझे मालूम है कि मैं फेंक रही थी या मैंने actually feel किया. I know it. तो जब मुझे मालूम है, when they say, okay, great, moving on, I know what I've done, and if I've lied and if I can do better, I will go and tell my filmmaker that, hey, I want to do better. But if it's a filmmaker I don't trust, which I've been in many situations, or if it's a filmmaker that I don't, and you never know, right? You only find out 1 week or 2 weeks into the movie, you're like, arey, ye to thoda sa gadbad mamla hai. So then all you can do is protect yourself. So what I do in that situation is I protect my character. I fight for my character. I fight for the lines she's going to say. I fight for the integrity of my character. I've cried in my trailers with directors, with writers, and I've said, what you do with the movie, I'm not going to tell you. But she will not say this because this makes no sense. Or she will not do this because this makes no sense. And I stand my ground for my character. Not for the movie. I will not turn around and tell. And I've been part of many movies that weren't very good, but I knew that my work was, and that's all I focused on. Was I want to come out of the movie with people saying, you can't turn around and say, oh my gosh, she was horrible in this movie. Bas wo na bole insan and I'm good, because again, movie making is not a siloed experience. It's not individual. So focus on your character. And in a lot of my flop films, I've got critical acclaim.
Same.
There we go. Boom. We can only protect yourselves, and you can only control what you can control. So don't spend your time wasting something you can't control, you know? That's a good note.
Absolutely. Okay. So today when you read a script, has your process of agreeing to do that piece changed over time?
Yes.
Or are you instinctive? I'm instinctive. You know, but obviously now I've just become smarter because I do evaluate, okay, can the producer support this 100%? And that only comes with experience. You know, that's my process. But there's just this feeling in your stomach, right? In your gut that, and I start imagining myself be that character.
Absolutely.
You know, like if it's a narration or when I'm reading it, I get so attached if I want to do the film. कि मैंने कहा अब तो कुछ भी करके मुझे करना ही है. Is your process similar or what is it?
My process changes over time depending on circumstances. Like, you know, there are some times where movies come to me. There are some times I have to fight for movies. I have to audition for movies. There are some times where, you know, it's a movie I pursue, that I've heard this movie is being made. So there are different scenarios in which you get into a movie, right? And I think when I read, if say in a scenario where a script has come to me for my persuasion or consideration, I will read it for just my character first, and to see if the story is interesting. If it's hard to read the script, if you're like, oh, kitni bachi hai yaar, that's when you know this is, even if your character is amazing, that's when you know like this is going to be a tough one to make. So then I sit with filmmakers and we talk about why it was a hard read. You know, you start with like, every wall you hit, you have to solve that first without thinking and getting overwhelmed by the whole thing. So my process is very different with different films. If it's like, oh, I was just going to say, do it. No, I can't. I'm going to talk about a film, but I can't. But there was a particular film which I read about that I really wanted to be a part of. And I remember I called I got my agents to call the filmmakers and offer myself and say, I would love to come in and audition for this movie. I would love to come in and, you know, whatever you need, because I know you haven't cast it yet. I've always wanted to be a part of this. And I had to do 3 auditions, I remember. I went in, the first time was just a meeting with the filmmaker. The second time, he came to my house and we did a reading. And the third time, we went to the studio and did the reading. And then I got the part and it was amazing. But I'm not afraid of pursuing my dreams, and my pride doesn't stand in front of me, ever. If you want something, don't let your pride stand in front of you. Ego is the end of everything. hard work, keeping your head down, humility, and persistence. That's all you need to be successful. And not just in my field, in yours, or any field that you pursue. It's just come from a peaceful place, come from a hardworking place, come from a place of no pride, come from a team, from wanting to help others rise around you instead of wanting to pull them down because you're insecure. Because we're all insecure sometimes, right? And हमारी insecurity में हम लोग दूसरों को भी नीचे करने की कोशिश करते हैं क्योंकि ताकि हम इतने ना लगे insecure. वो अगर recognize करोगे ना आप कि shit मैं ये कर रहा हूँ या मैं ये कर रही हूँ, मैं insecure हूँ और मैं दूसरे बंदे को भी insecure feel करवा रही हूँ. That's when you become a leader. So try to be a leader in your field. And you don't have to be the top of your game to be a leader. You have to be an everyday leader. The world needs everyday leaders.
Yeah.
In smaller environments, for everyday people, for your colleagues, for your family. And that just requires having humility, persistence, and a sense of hard work. That's it.
You know, I have so many more questions, but maybe for a different session. But thank you so much, Anupama, for making this happen. Honestly, I think for me personally, this was a bit of a therapy session.
I'm sorry. I feel like
I loved
everyone.
it. No, I loved it because, you know, your journey has been so incredible. And your gems that you shared with us today are so valuable to all of us. You know, we all are students of cinema and it's a never-ending process. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhumi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to come and ask me questions and to spend this time with me and take the afternoon to spend the time with all of us. So thank you all for registering and coming today. Thank you all for spending this afternoon with me and Bhumi. It means a lot. Thank you so much.